The first lesson comes from the 60th chapter of Isaiah, starting with the first verse. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples. For the Lord will arise upon you, and the glory will appear over you. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look around. They all gather together. They come to you. Your son shall come from far away, and your daughter shall be carried on their nurse's arms. Then you shall see and be radiant. Your heart shall thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea shall be brought to you. The wealth of the nations shall come to you. A multitude of camels shall cover you. The young camels of Midian and Ephah, and all those of Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and frankincense, and shall proclaim the praise of the Lord. Here ends the first lesson.
This is from Matthew 2. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed this star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea. For so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. This is the gospel of the Lord. Please be seated. Okay, I'm going to ask for a few volunteers to come forward. I need someone with a baby bag, someone with a purse, and a guy with pockets and who has something in his pockets. Okay, I've got a baby bag, I've got a purse, need a guy with pockets. Boy, I hope this goes well. Okay, I want each of you to take 3 or 4 things out of your purse, pocket, or baby bag. What'd you say, John?
I said I can almost do that.
You can almost do that, okay. Now what I want to talk about today is journeys and the journeys that we take. And all 3 of these people, like all of you, have prepared to take a journey. You took a journey this morning to River of Grace, and you prepared to take this journey. And each of you brought some things with you. Rebecca has the baby bag. What you got?
Coconut oil, milk, and dried blueberries.
Coconut oil, milk, and dried blueberries. So these are things that you need for your journey to church. The rest of us who don't have a baby bag, aren't you glad you didn't have to pick these things up and get them ready for church? I'm happy to leave for church with a purse and a Bible in the morning. So anyway, yeah. So these are things you need, and God bless all of you who leave the house with a baby bag. All right, what you got, John? 3.
Wallet, cell phone, car keys.
Wallet, cell phone, car keys. I knew the guy was going to be the simplest. If you're a guy, raise your hand if that's about the only things that you have on you. Oh, okay. Change for soda. So we did think ahead. So the wallet, the keys, the cell phone, that's pretty much all you thought you were going to need between here and home.
Right.
Okay. Reagan.
iPad, painter's tape, a memory stick, and DS games.
Okay. This is our youth minister. You don't ever leave home without DS games, do you?
No, it's actually usually in there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So she's a school teacher.
The DS isn't in there right now.
Oh, okay. But you never know when you're going to need the games, right? And the iPad. Every time I see you, you've got the iPad.
Most of the time, yeah.
What are some things that you do on the iPad when you're out? Why do you take the iPad with you wherever you go?
Well, it has my books on it. It's got my email, my texts on my phone. I can look things up. It's got my lessons for the teens. It's the internet. It's Star Trek right here. Y'all, come on, y'all know.
Yeah. Okay. And the painter's tape. I'm just intrigued by the painter's tape.
Well, that was making a sign for downstairs and for, I was trying to make a sign for our, how much money we collect.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. You guys can go back to your seats. Thanks for being good sports, bringing forward the things from your journey.
I have more.
I bet you do. Does not surprise me. So when we set out on a journey, we tend to grab some things that we think we're going to need, right? Just, pick up a few things, and then there's always things that we don't need. Anybody ever overpack for a trip? Oh, come on. Be honest. All right. Has anybody in the room ever underpacked for a trip? Oh, that's impressive. Wow. I could use some packing lessons from you folks because I'm an overpacker. So the wise men on this journey, they want to go and see Jesus. And they're guided by a star. Now, these wise men, they're magi, which means that they're astrologers. They are people who are studying the stars. That's their life's work. Just like some of you knew when you were very young that you wanted to be a teacher, or that you wanted to be a mechanic, or that you wanted to work with people, or that maybe you didn't want to work with people, or whatever it might be. Or maybe your journey changed along the way. But these guys knew that they wanted to study the stars, and that's what they devoted their lives to. And there was a star, and it was rising, and they were going to follow that star, and it was going to land above this new king. And they were going to take gifts. They were going to take gold and frankincense and myrrh, and they were going to kneel, and they were going to bow down before this king. And that's how my nativity scenes at home picture it, and that's how my mind pictures it. And when we did our Christmas program here, and we had Jeff and Ron, and was it Bob? Who was our third wise man? Oh, there we go. And Aaron, when we had you guys dancing in, and I still remember Jeff's great lines from that. When we had you guys dancing in, being the wise men. I mean, that's how I picture it. But I guess this time, when I spent some time with this text this week, I was thinking about what the wise men might have felt like when they picked up and they left home to set out on this journey. Have you ever packed up and gone on a journey and known that your life would never be the same again? Say you traveled out to go to be there for the death of a loved one, and you knew that everything would never be the same. Or you packed up on a journey because you were moving, and you put everything you had into a truck, and you were heading out, and things were going to be different. Or say you'd lost everything and you had to start over. Well, these wise men were putting everything that they had at risk. They were putting everything they had at risk because Herod knew them, and Herod knew that this baby who was born was to be called King of the Jews. But that's who he was. That's who Herod was. And so once Herod found out where this baby was, he wasn't going to want these wise men, these magi, around anymore. And so when they set out to present their gifts to Jesus, they knew that they weren't going to be able to settle and have the same kind of lives that they did. They went back to their hometowns. They didn't go back to the place where they had studied the stars and sat so eloquently, where people came to them and they just wrote out directions on parchment paper, telling people, you know, this is what you need to do, and this is the stuff that their scholarly selves were trained for. Everything was going to be different. This wasn't the job description that they first accepted. They were on a journey. And I wonder how that felt as they packed up and went on their way. So you figured out by now, if you didn't know when you woke up this morning, that we're celebrating Epiphany today, the season of light. And we talk about light not just for one day in the church year, but it's actually a 6-week thing. But really we talk about Christ being the light all year long. Because we need light in this dark world of ours. Matthew 5 reminds us that we are the light. We're like light sitting on top of a hill. The world needs us to be light. But when we set out on these journeys, we can predict some of the things we're going to take along. It might be blueberries. It might be a cell phone. It might be an iPad, or it might be painter's tape. But a lot of the times, we don't know what we're going to need for where our journey is going to take us. And a lot of times, we're going to go back home, and everything's going to be just like it was when we left there. But a whole lot of times it's not going to be that way. And those are the times that we really need to build up what we have inside. Or rather, we really need to let God build up what we have inside. And that's why Jesus was born in the first place. To meet us in this stuff of life. He was born the Son of God, but he was also born to be human. To live a life like we do. To know what it's like to set out on a journey. Who's ever set out on a journey and forgotten something? Yeah. And a lot of times those things can be replaced on the way, but sometimes they can't. And we really need that thing. And we just try to make it without that thing. But as we go along our way, we work to let that light, like that light that guided Jesus, to be the light that truly guides, or the light that guided the Magi, to be the light that truly guides us along the way. Now, oftentimes, we don't know where that light is. And when you don't know where the light is, I want to invite you to look at the people around you. Because I think that one of the places God shows up the most is right inside the people who are closest to us. God has a beautiful way of doing that. Showing up inside the people who are closest to us. I actually think that God sends us people. People just appear in our lives right when we need them. And I think we can probably all tell stories about that. And in fact, I want to invite you, if you stay for coffee today, and I hope that you do, we've got treats and coffee and all that stuff downstairs. I want to invite you to just share with somebody a time that somebody showed up in your life that you really needed them to. I've heard stories from people about, I was having a real grumpy kind of day and doing things with the wrong attitude. And then I talked to my neighbor who was outside, and when I saw him, I didn't really want to see him because I didn't feel like having a small talk kind of day. But then I realized that that conversation turned my whole day around and put everything in perspective. Or I hear about someone who's going through a really hard time and someone stopped by at just the right time. Or I hear about someone who's struggling with a work problem when somebody just pops into their office. And I don't think that we orchestrate those. I think that God sends those people. So if you can't find the light for your way, I want to invite you to look at the people around you. And then I also want to remind you of what I reminded the kids of. And I don't know if they got it, but they surprise me with what they get. And so that's why I keep talking to them about it. That God makes you the light for other people along the way. Don't underestimate your light. You might think your dimmer switch is working really, really well right now. But don't underestimate what God has put in you to be just the right person at just the right time for somebody. You might say something to someone that can really, really change their day. And when we change a day for somebody, we can change a week for somebody. When we change a week for somebody, we can change a month for somebody. If we can change a month for somebody, we can change a year for somebody. And that's not even your responsibility, but it's God who's working through you. So I want to give you a little example about that. One person posts something on Facebook, says she's having a really bad day. And it's been a really bad week. And she doesn't know if she's ever going to get over the fact that she feels betrayed by her best friend. Another person calls her and says, let's go out and have coffee. The two sit and talk. Suddenly, this person recognizes that there is this person in the world who cares. Now, we all know what this person was trying to do. She just wanted to be heard. She just wanted to be loved. She just wanted the world to be okay again. This person cared. A cup of coffee, an hour of time. And yeah, we say we don't have an hour, but to heal a heart, isn't that worth an hour? Have any of you ever filled up your car with gas at night? Pull into a gas station. Now, gas stations are really well lit, and that's a good thing. I love that. That's how you know if they're open when you drive by. But I'm often filling up my car with gas at night. And the car I have now has automatic, it turns on the lights. It knows if it's dark. I love having a smart car. But the car I had before didn't do that. And more often than not, when I left a gas station at night, I would pull out on the road and my lights wouldn't be on. Now, how do you suppose I'd figure that out? Well, it's hard to see. That's one. But then somebody would flash their lights at me. It's the same sort of thing. When somebody flashed their lights at me, I was like, oh, better do something about that. And I'd turn on my lights. When you see someone who's having a hard time, flash your brights. Flash that city set on a hill. Their journey could be a hard one. They might not have everything that they need. Their cell phone, their blueberries, their milk, their iPad, their painter's tape. They might not have what they need with them, but what they can have is you and your encouragement. And what might feel really small could really help them. How do I know if those people didn't help me from driving off the side of the road? Or hurting somebody? Little things can make a big difference. Don't underestimate the fact that you are part of that light that shone above Jesus' manger. And embrace it. Wrap yourself in it. And maybe this week, find some of those people who have been part of Christ's light in your life and say thank you. Because maybe they don't know that they made that kind of difference. And it might just help encourage them to continue being that kind of light. Amen.